Got 3 hunts for Prince, 3 hunts. One of them is a little bit farther away
I'm
for
happy. I'm
King.
happy. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I am too.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the Advanced Division semi-final between PrinceofKabul and KingofOsmane. We are about to jump into game number 1, with both players spawning in on New England. PrinceofKabul is going to be playing as the Spanish civilization, and he is going to be spawning to the southwest of the map, with the Spanish civilization in the colour red, where his opponent, KingofOsmane, is spawning to the northeast in the green colour as the Ottomans. We do see a wood start for both players, I believe, on the forward. The Spanish player does have 200 wood, so are we expecting an early trading post from PrinceofKabul to try and contest a line from the Ottoman player?
I think so. If it were me, I would pick up that 200 wood, get a trade post down, and then chop the house. Uh, but maybe Prince will go for a market start instead. That's also a possibility with these with that 40 coin beaver treasure right there.
He's also got a 30 coin just north to his base as well, so
Oh yeah,
plenty of options for the Spanish player early on. And looks like after this long load into the game, we are just about to get this proceedings underway, and both players are into the game successfully. And here we go. This is the start of the semi-finals.
yeah. So as you mentioned, wood start for both players. Looks like Prince is actually making a beeline for a trade post, so he will be making one. And KingofOsmane also equally putting down. I'm pretty sure he's going to be putting down a trade post, a house, and then maybe a mosque, depending on how much that costs.
Yeah, you can see the infrastructure being chucked down at the back of base already. And one thing I do like from KingofOsmane is that I think in this matchup, the Ottoman player will be happy to take map control in the centre of the map, and so he's gone straight for his nearest trading post instead of trying to path around the north side of the pond and trying to go to the top side. And as we can see, PrinceofKabul is already at the top side with his Explorer and War Dog. Just imagine if these two units were attacking the Ottoman Explorer on a trading post already.
Yeah. He actually didn't opt for the trade post. He made a house and is just gathering food right now, so I think he made a beeline towards some of these treasures up north. And he's picking up the Iroquois Tomahawk. That with the War Dog, maybe he's going to look for. I guess he's just going to hunt some treasures a lot in this early part of the game and forego the TP for the time being.
For example, 75 wood guarded by 2 wolves as well, having the dog and the Iroquois Tomahawk with you. This is a very easy treasure for the Spanish player to pick up, and nearby we see an additional Tomahawk available, 80 XP to the right, 90 coins to the left, already gone past the CDB, and with this little army being accumulated from PrinceofKabul, he's also got 75 wood, food, so he could actually train a second War Dog if he really wants to secure this CDB early on in the game.
Yeah. I think, let's see, he's picking up 90 coin right now, but he should be in a position to take this CDB treasure pretty uncontested, just given the position of the Ottoman Explorer. Obviously, Prince doesn't know that KingofOsmane is to like that northern part of the map, so maybe he won't take it, but yeah, he definitely has the option to. Now he's going for that Tomahawk, I think.
But also, yeah, Tomahawk with just guarded by just 3 wolves, as well as having
and
his
a
army
Veiled
already.
Treasure.
That should be really useful for PrinceofKabul. And yeah, nearby Veiled Treasure, guarded by 4 black bears, so maybe you want to prioritize the CDB because it is mid-map. But it gives options for PrinceofKabul to continue treasure gathering into the second stage if he so chooses.
Yeah. Prince has a treasure trove of treasures on his side of the map, 100%. He can just stay in this area and just keep gathering so many good treasures. I think I'm not too sure what he's up to, but we'll have to keep an eye on his Explorer to see what he does. KingofOsmane, on the other hand, has his Explorer positioned in the center of the map, probably going to take that second trade post here very soon.
I've noted that PrinceofKabul only has 2 sheep on the field, but I did see him pick up a few sheep earlier on, so I do not believe they were picked up by KingofOsmane's single Explorer, so he must have eaten a few sheep in the first stage to try and speed up his advance to age 2, and which could also then, as a result, help his advance to age 3 if he wants to go for a fast fortress agenda. Taking a look at PrinceofKabul's deck, we do see a relatively standard deck, also with the inclusion of 700 food in age 2, single unit shipment card, 2 ships available, So 2 caravels and a frigate. No Spanish gold, single heavy infantry unit shipment into the 3rd age, and 5 hussars, 4 lancer, 5 lancer, and the double cavalry, and well, all the cavalry upgrades. So it looks like Prince of Kabul may want to be focusing on some lancer production this game.
Yeah, I think so as well. It looks like King of Osmane is going to be going for that trade post, and I think that Prince is just gonna right-click the Explorer and prevent that from going up.
Yeah,
King's going to
probably look at his army thinking, where on earth did this come from? A dog, 2 native warriors? This is so unfair. But, you know, the native warriors slightly nerfed, but, you know, the 2 of them together kind of balance out. But now that he's into the 2nd age, these Tomahawks are twice as strong now due to that buff revert. 3 extra dogs being produced, and oh my, look at that! 22 HP away from that training post being completed, and also because of this, the training post is not completed, and King of Osmane has just aged up. The line of sight from this training post is not enough to revive King of Osmane, and actually, King of Osmane aged up first and then lost his extra 100 HP, so he won't be getting up for a while afterwards. So King of Osmane is just going to be stuck on the 2 trading posts for the time being.
Yeah, he really is. That's an outstanding move out of Prince of Kabul right there. Picks up the CDB for free just because that Explorer from the Ottoman is dead. And I think he's going to make a beeline towards the villager treasure now. It's a freebie. Why not just take that right off the bat? Ottoman has the wind taken out of its sails right now because of, well, first of all, that TP is so unlucky. And then, you know, What are we seeing? I guess Janissaries are coming out of a barracks in the middle.
Yeah, so it looks like King of Osmane really wants to try and get control of the TPs, and I'd like to have seen Prince of Kabul at some stage, you know, chop 100 wood to get a trading post of his own. Just, if anything, just to deny a 4 TP play from the Ottoman player. He still has that 100 wood available from the Colonial Age, but having sent 700 coin, gathering up all the resources and going for a quite fast fortress. He now has the wood on the floor and could be turning around to get the trading post, but he's given the Ottoman player enough time to get Janissaries on the field, stagecoach in, and the Ottoman player is about to get his 4th trading post. We also see from the Spanish player dropping a outpost right north of his town centre, near the coin mine, but also near the ponds. So if any forward shipments from King of Osmane, like the 2 galleys, the 3 galleys, or the 1 frigate, come into this forward pond, then it would have to do with this outpost as well as any shipments that Prince of Kabul also sends into the pond.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That outpost accomplishes a lot for Prince of Kabul. Only just noticed this. It's a prince against a king, so kind of a little tidbit right there. But yeah, we did
come
see.
On, really?
Hey, it's early. I'm pointing out the small things in life.
So,
but yeah,
the question I have is Kabul a real place? Is Osmane a real place? I think Kabul is a real place, and Osmane, I want to say, is a name, but don't quote me on that one.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Kabul's definitely for real. I don't know about Osmane. We'll look that up between series, and we'll circle back to that one. I think it's important to answer that question. But yeah, both players opted for their fortress agenda now, and I want to say that King of Osmane with his stagecoach TP line is gonna do really well here.
So what we see here is King of Osmane is going for a fast fortress of his own, but with 4 trading posts and the fast age up, Prince has had to sit back with his units because he doesn't have the fast age politician. He has gone for the Admiral of the Ocean Sea age up, so 400 wood on the floor as well as the caravel, and this outpost from King is going to be denied straight away, and that was quite a lucky pickup from Prince. Good play to go for the caravel, but lucky to find that outpost, and I guess King of Osmane is a little unhappy that the Admiral of the Ocean Sea was the age up from Prince.
Yeah, that's a pretty cute move right there, aging up with that politician on New England. But it's a very good move, I think. That caravel helps out so much. 2 falconets on the field for King of Osmane, and they will be helping out so much against what Spain has at this point. Lancers from Prince of Kabul and skirmishers as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see how these 2 armies interact, but I want to give it to King at this point.
Well, Janissary is only having a 15 times by 2. Not great versus cavalry, so Lance is good here. They also can deal with the falconets. Just imagine if he sneaks in a frigate in King of Osmane's pond, he could get a very quick broadside on the Falconets, but it looks like he's going to push in with the Lancers. On top of the Falconets already, he's just going to take the hand damage from the Janissaries, but he's committing to the Falconets, and the Falconets have fallen over with 3 Lancers still on the field. What's happened? That the army, the Ottoman players, just fallen over here.
Yeah, it really is. That was a really good pickup by Prince of Kabul. You know, taking out those Falconets, but a bunch of Janissaries still left over. Despite not having so much attack, these veteran Janissaries have so much HP, and they really take some time to get gunned down. And at this point, you know, Prince down to a few skirmishers. He did have another Lancer shipment in on the way, so both players trading blows right there.
I think what's also useful to note as well, that KINGofOsmane, he still has the heavy infantry frigate sent into a defensive pond for KINGofOsmane. Should have enough range to deal. Well, actually, we'll be protecting his stagecoach, and enough range there from the frigates to defend this trading post of himself. But Prince, though, because he's dealt with the Ottoman 2 Falconet shipments, he does have his own 2 Falconet shipments available to send, and will not be losing those in a artillery trade-off.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That option is still open for Prince of Kabul. Kind of interesting that frigate from King of Osmane. I guess we're looking at a stalemate situation here, except that King of Osmane retains the trade post line. So we're going to see some action here in a few moments.
That frigate, there's no way the Spanish players getting line of sight in that pond for the time being, but these 4 trading posts are essentially uncontested, and you know, just imagine if instead of the Admiral of the Ocean Sea went up with 8 pikes, at least you'd have some siege potential in the top 2 trading posts and diverting the Ottoman players' attention.
Yeah. Trade post under fire, the barracks as well. You know, these Falconets are positioned in a way that the frigate cannot get to them. So, Prince did find himself a comfy little spot on the map to wail away at these buildings. The King of Osmane, in the meantime, going for some Apis guns. Interesting decision against so many, like a Spain with the Lancers.
Well, I think also, with all this veteran Janissary mass, King of Osmane could have also produced 1 culverin, chucked his entire army into the frigate, dropped the frigate onto the coast, and with the culverin and frigate, would have easily contested and dealt with the 2 Falconets, with the heavy infantry protecting the culverin from the Lancers. And now that there's Falconets still on the field from Prince of Kabul and moving away from the water area where the frigate is, King's going to have to deal with these Falconets, but look, Apis guns pounding onto the Falconets, and the Apis guns just took a 1 shot onto the Falconets, but retreating behind the Janissary line for protection away from the Lancers.
Really good move out of King of Osmane. He had exactly the amount of Apis guns needed to 1-shot the Falconet. Prince of Kabul is down to 1 Falc only. He does have a bunch of skirmishers and some Lancers, but this army is just lightweight compared to what the Ottoman player has on the field right now. King of Osmane is ahead in score. Oh, those volleys were really good from the Falconet. Bunch of Apis guns going down. The Lancers doing some work. But how do you deal with all these Janissaries?
Well, he's got a decent mass of skirmisher, reinforcing batch of 5 Hussars, 3 Lancers as well, and with these skirmishers on the field, he's taken some good volleys onto the veteran Janissaries, and these Apis guns are quite low in number and also being picked off by the skirmishers. A couple of Lancers mixed in with the Hussars to tank, with the skirmishers in the background, should do some decent damage here. Does King of Osmane have a 5 Cav Archer shipment? No, he does not.
No, you're right. And then these Lancers and the Hussar connecting with the Janissaries, the skirmishers doing so much work. But Prince of Kabul is fighting underneath his town center, which is kind of a risky gambit. If Spahi come out, because King of Osmane does have that option. And Prince has no
Have you seen his food costs? Yeah, he just literally bought some food from the market, and we do see the 5 Spahis on the way. So let's get the Spahi hype in the chat going on. And I think one thing to note there as well is he essentially traded his gold for food to get the Spahis on the way, but he could have also shipped Minutemen. I think Minutemen with the Janissaries would be enough to at least fend this army for the time being. At the moment, he's running with his villagers and his Janissaries away from his spawn point, but he needs to really run to the ponds and get back to his frigates.
Yeah, and he is doing... Yeah, that frigate is you know, an option for King of Osmane at this point. You know, they can cover. These Lancers just doing so much.
5 Spahis out in the field, but the Lancers are already engaged with the Janissaries, and like I said, Janissaries struggle with cavalry with their low hand attack and multiplier. Reinforcing Spahis will do very well against these Lancers, and there's only a few skirmishers on the field, so actually the Janissaries managed to stay alive long enough to actually take down the Lancers, and actually didn't need the Spahis in the end at all.
Yeah, no, really. This 9 Rodolero shipment came in as well, but too little, too late. The army of the Spanish player was way out of position for these Rodolero to join the fray, and the Janissaries and the Spahi completely clean up. Scores are still somewhat close, but there's a sizable advantage for King of Osmane at this point, and the Spahi connecting with all of these units.
Yeah, look at this, 750 HP cavalry units with an area damage. These units are just no match for these heavy cavalry, and they fall over. And King of Osmane has picked up game number 1. Prince realising he's lost control of the trading post contention, has no way to challenge his frigates, and after losing his mass of army after he sent in 5 unit shipments in a row, he had no momentum to carry on this game and has to resign game number 1. And the king is showing the prince how it's done.
Yeah, no, absolutely outranking him in the monarchy right there. That was a really solid game out of King of Osmane, 100%.
Is King of Osmane married to Queen of Destiny with Prince their child? That would be an interesting Age of Empires 3 love triangle. We do have to announce the happy marriage between H2O and Maito currently, so happy
that
marriage to those guys.
They are at a wedding, and congratulations to the people involved in that wedding. Very good stuff over there.
Yeah, the Maito was the joke, but it actually was H2O getting married to his own fiance. So well done to H2O, and hopefully once that's all settled down and you're committed to the person for a long time, you make your way back to Age of Empires 3 now.
That would be awesome. That would be so amazing. But yeah.
So villager count, we see the Spanish player getting ahead in the villager count. You can see early on in Age 2 how he picked up those extra CDB and Ville treasures, so he got extra 2 villagers from the treasures. Was unable to squeeze in a 5 settler shipment in between Age 2 and Age 3 because he did not have the trading post in Age 1 or during transition to Age 2, and actually gave King of Osmane in terms of villager count was slightly below the Spanish player at all times, but with 4 trading posts for the majority of the game, with the stagecoach upgrade and arguably superior units, the economy was going in favour for King of Osmane, and you see all resources gathered, King of Osmane out-gathering slightly, but then military unit population doing well in the early game, but towards the end, once we get the Abus guns on the field, and then the Spahis reinforcing as well, Prince of Kabul just could not keep up in that game.
Yeah. I think, as you pointed out, I think it had to do with that trade post not being put up by Prince of Kabul. So that probably kind of set him on the back foot right off the bat. I wonder how the game would have gone if Prince had just slapped down 1 trade post and just squeezed that in. Yeah,
Prince of Kabul at no point attempted to build a trading post, and as a result did not get on that trade route at any point in the game. And to be fair, it was once that frigate was sent to King of Osmane's home pond, it was very hard for the Spanish player to even push out and try and contest that map. And also because he didn't have that trading post in Age 1, he couldn't go for the 5 vills, but he also couldn't go for a more forward-thinking 8 pikeman shipments. And with also advancing with the Admiral of the Ocean Sea instead of the Sergeant at Arms, there's possible 16 pikes the Spanish player could have had by the time he got to the 3rd age.
Yeah, no, for sure. But the game did go to King of Osmane. Well-deserved win from him, making very few, if any, mistakes that game. So now we're on to Bonnie Springs, and King of Osmane no longer has the Ottoman Empire as a civilization that he can choose at this point.
So yeah, Bonnie Springs has actually become one of my favourite maps out of this tournament setting. It's we've always seen some more faster paced games in this map and some interesting matchups in games as well. I know that some of the players may disagree with that thinking from myself here. However, we may be seeing some forward-thinking civs like Russia, Iro. We could even see Prince picking out the Ottomans as his own or staying with the Spanish. We have seen previous players like Keister, Frontier winning as the Spanish on Bonnie Springs. So
Yeah, I remember that game. That was a fun one to watch. I don't know. I agree with you. Bonnie Springs is an atypical map, so it's kind of interesting to see how players and civilizations like adapt to it, making it a bit different from all the resource-heavy maps, High Plains, Kamchatka, whatever you want. So I'm with you on that one. Russia.
he's also locked in as well for his comments. So yeah, King of Osmane has locked as the Russian civilization. But if you have Russia as a opening pick, I think it leaves you open to quite a few counter picks. And we have seen that when players pick Russia as their opening civ, they do kind of struggle, as the opponents usually have a civ lined up in mind. And it looks like Prince is going for Aztec rather quickly there.
Yeah, that's an interesting counter pick right there. Aztec versus Russia is a really fun matchup, in my opinion. I personally think it's 50-50, but maybe Prince has something up his sleeve that will answer King of Osmane's Russians. You know, I think Coyote do really well in this matchup. Musketeers are fairly weak, and Coyote have the ability to get a lot of surface area over cavalry units. Throw in a few Puma, and things can happen on the Aztec side of it. So we'll have to see how the things go in this game.
It's kind of cool that you're highlighting the Coyotes. I was going to highlight the Mace. The Mace have the fast rate of fire, fast movement speed, can move in, kite, get out quickly, return to the war hut. And I think we've basically identified that the Aztec player has multiple tools at his disposal in H2 to deal with the Russian civ.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing to underline with the Mace is that they trade against Strelets rather well compared to most other infantry. So probably one of the reasons Prince clicked into this matchup. Both civilizations also have access to the War Hut Blockhouse mechanic, which helps with map control. But I will let you introduce these players.
Well, just tagged out their game and back in, but we're about to spawn into game number 2 between Prince of Kabul and King of Osmane. King of Osmane, winning that last game on New England as the Ottoman civilization, has decided to pick the Russian civ to be played on this map on Bonnie Springs. Would start for both players with Prince spawning in the top map, playing as the Aztecs in the colour blue. And what's happened to my mouse? It's my screen's moving all over the place, so hopefully that shouldn't carry on into the game. And it's taken a while for these players to get in, but once both players have started into this game, it seems to be actually a very smooth game. We haven't seen much of a lag of an issue, and so looking for a very close series as well as a closely fought game on this map. Both players playing really aggressive civilizations, and is exactly what you want to have on a map which has, in this case, spawned with a pretty low resource distribution. Both players having access to 2 nearby bison hunts as well as 1 in-base coin mine, and any additional coin mines they may want to get out the map is certainly a little bit further than they would wanted.
Yeah. The map spawn, though, is remarkably even. Both players have the coin mine. Both players have 3 hunts, 1 in base. Both players have their next bison hunt in the interior of the town. So looking pretty good.
Looks like we just started the game there. For some reason, I just thought I saw a drop screen. So luckily, we're all into the game spawned correctly. So hopefully, we'll have none of that shenanigans moving forward. We do see Prince of Kabul moving towards the centre of the map relatively quickly, picking up 35 on his way. 35 food on his way, with King also making his way to the centre, having already picked up 55 coin. And in the centre of the map, we have lots of very easy treasures, and you can just take one of these after the other. 30 food available, 35 food, 20 coin, and already just picked himself 30 coin there. So easy treasures to take, and it's both players in the centre. And look at this, Prince of Kabul is about to come across the Russian explorer, and with the Aztec explorer and the alligator, could put some damage onto the Russian player, but has decided to move away. Maybe he wants to protect the alligator's life from the King of Osmane's sharp shot.
Yeah, looks like King of Osmane is prioritizing all these small little treasures, picking up a food treasure and a beavers, as well as the 35 food treasure. So, whereas I feel like Prince of Kabul is looking for the bigger, meteor treasures, but there's not a lot.
He has seen the 75 coin, which he passed by, but that's not very useful for the Aztec player. 40 food in base for the Russian player is certainly a nice thing to have as any civ to age up, and it's nice to deny the Russian player this extra food treasure in base. So quick pickup there. What we see from KINGofOsmane, he's working on a 65 wood treasure guarded by 3 coyotes, and that would surely help KINGofOsmane's transition to the second age with dropping down a blockhouse. And I guess with both players, we want to see where are they going to drop their blockhouses and war huts. What do you think of this situation, Cami?
Yeah, I'm not even sure because this is a matchup that's like fairly unfamiliar with me. But I see Russia taking map control and not giving it back to the Aztec. So I'm gonna predict a forward blockhouse from the Russian player. Set up a contain, the old 2 blockhouse right next to each other sort of strategy, and from there kind of try to trade their cost efficient units into the Aztec units as well. But we'll see what the players actually do. This is just my little thought process, if you will.
Yeah, a really nice treasure for PrinceofKabul here, coming across an 80 food treasure, and he's still quite far away from aging up, so this would surely help getting that age up in queue on time without any idle time. And the more food you pick up in treasures, the earlier you can start chopping wood, and the earlier you can get that war hut up in base. So looking good for both players here.
Yep. Yeah, as you rightfully pointed out, I think both players picking up some good treasures. Finally, King reveals this 80 food treasure, so he's probably going to start working on that, is my guess. But he's out of position to do so. This coyote does go down to the Aztecs. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like Prince is going to just walk past it, so...
Oh my god, what is happening? My mouse got back into game. Sorry guys, I must have accidentally alt-tabbed there. Just trying to turn my sensitivity down. My mouse is doing crazy things today, but we're back in the game though, and we've both seen both players aging up to the second age, and let's see what the Aztec player is aging up with. He's aging up with the messenger. He's moving across with 3 villagers, and sometimes with the Aztec player we only see 2 move forwards, but going very, very forward with his villagers. We also have 1 settler on the left-hand side for the Russian player, but it looks like he's on herding duties, and the Russian player he's dropping an in-base blockhouse.
Yeah, you're right. So kind of the reverse of what I was saying earlier. It's going to be the Aztec, which is the aggressor. I'm guessing 700 wood right off the bat, just based off the fill distribution of PrinceofKabul, throwing down a war hut, and starting to lay on the pressure.
I think that's one of the things advancing up with the messenger does. It gets you to the second age very, very quickly, but you don't age up with a Travois like the Iroquois do. You just don't have the resources available to drop down that war hut as straight as you hit the second age, but allows you to have time to drop down an economic shipment before you go purely military focused. And it looks like he's gone for a 700 wood shipment, which would help his war huts being produced, as well as unit production from the Aztec player, given that coyote runners and mace sultans also have a wood cost associated with them.
Yep, absolutely. Some housing going down, as well as a market for the Aztec player, war hut. The way the economy is set up, I'm thinking Coyote. I think that's probably one of the best units to start off with in this matchup because they deal with Cossacks and Strelets relatively well and can run away from Musketeers very easily. But we'll see what he actually does. Stealth traps coming in for Russia.
We see King trying his best to micro down the animal army of Prince, but unfortunately King's just basically running straight into the Aztec base. He's trying to see if he can scout a war hut, or to see maybe it's a warrior priest boom or whatever the Aztec player is doing, but not getting the scouting information he may have wanted there. Maybe he did see the fire pit and just a 1 warrior priest, and I'm unsure if he's actually seen this war hut on the right hand side. He'll know about it very, very soon. 10 mace sultans spawn from the war hut, 5 coyotes trained, and they're moving near enough into line of sight of the Russian player's town. And with these 5 Cossacks on the other side of the map, they either want to continue with the raid or turn back. And yes, the coyotes are turning back to try and defend this 5 coyotes, 10 mace, and another batch of coyotes on the field.
Yep. I really like what Prince is doing. He's checking out this hunt before moving into the base, making sure that there's no freebie villager to kill off. These Cossacks do have to turn around, and now he starts harassing this coin mine with the Mace Sultan. The Mace Sultan are going to trade very well against these Musketeers. And these Coyote just are going to be a little bit tricky for Russia to deal with at this point in the game.
KINGofOsmane dropping up a couple of houses. I think he's trying his best to micro down these Maze Sultans. The 5 Cossacks returning, and with no anti-cav here on the field for PrinceofKabul, these Cossacks are going to do quite a bit of work on the field, and 13 Struts have just popped 7 coin away from Minutemen if he wants to get an extra bit of coin. 6 Puma Spearmen have just been sent to the forward war hut of PrinceofKabul, but this army of Cossacks and Struts should be enough to try and fend away the ESOC player. He's returning only now, but just imagine if King had an extra bit of coin, he'd call Minutemen right now on top of this army.
Yeah, Minutemen would be crucial as of right now. Having Coyote and Puma in the mix, Minutemen do come down, start wailing away at the Aztec army. The Aztec has to get out of there. This position is too entrenched for the Russian player. So both players really posturing. Not a lot of damage taking, but definitely some exchanges right off the bat.
Yeah, it's a bit unlucky there for King as well. You can see what he's trying to do. He's got his infantry all in one group and his cavalry the second, but he brought his cavalry behind the infantry just to kind of get it out of sort of the snare range of Coyotes. But he tried to turn around on top of the Coyote mass, but actually got blocked by his own units and building position of the town centre and blockhouse, and that allowed the Coyote runners of the Aztec player to retreat without being snared back to the safety of the war hut, and the standoff between the Russian army and the Aztec army continues.
Yeah, it certainly does. I think KINGofOsmane is kind of in a comfortable position at this point. He has some time. He has some hunts and base to work with that they're really tucked away. They're really safe. The coin mine is pretty close to the town center. And he can entrench himself in here pretty easily. Aztec, in the meantime, you know, if they want to be the aggressors, but at this point, if they were to push the issue, I feel like it would not go into the favor of the Aztec player. So kind of a stalemate, as you pointed out. More Mace Sultan coming in, another batch of Coyotes, maybe round 2 coming in.
Oh, this is an interesting shipment from KINGofOsmane. I'm not too sure I'm with him on this one. 700 coin comes in, but the only buildings which can use the coin is the musketeer production from a single blockhouse, and without the 700 wood, he can't get a stable down, can't get a second blockhouse, and a second blockhouse to defend would be very nice, as well as also maybe a blockhouse left side to control the map. But the coin is useful just to aid with the unit production, but only from a single building. Okay, we do finally see the stable come down the back, and maybe bought some wood with some of the coin coming in, and yeah, all that coin's been gathered up already, so he must have bought wood with that.
Ooh. A dicey situation here for the Russian player. There are so many Coyote. There are some Puma in the mix as well. These Coyote are going to do really well against the Russian infantry, but the Russians are kind of tucked away in a way that is good for ranged infantry. The Coyote are connecting with villagers.
Yeah, he's got a row of villagers with the HP upgrade, and that is really fantastic control from King. Like, he's going to lose ones to the top, but the other vills to the south did not lose a single one there, and tanked so much damage, preserving the musketeers and the struts from behind, continuing to do some volley fire onto the Coyotes. And after all that, the coin shipment's been sent, stable has been produced. We should see more cavalry being produced, but you know, KINGofOsmane, because his coin mine was forward, blockhouse to the left-hand side of the coin mine as well, he's struggling to get the coin needed, and you can see that he's actually in a sticky situation. He's already sent his 700 coin, and his only other real safe access to coin is via the market and selling food, and even that, his hunts are starting to wear thin. So that 700 wood could have produced, given the Russian player that extra vital infrastructure he needs to defend the coin mine and hunts, and Coyotes are going straight onto his hunts to the left. I think he's smelling out that the Russian player is desperate to get some sort of extra resources nearby his base, and he's just moving out of Coyotes. And you said earlier that we were expecting to see lots of Coyotes. Your prediction's correct. There's just so many Coyotes out in the field. Soon, I expect PrinceofKabul to ship the Coyote Combat upgrade, which is 20% hit points, as well as 10% speed.
Oh, cutting out a little bit there. I no longer hear you.
I'm still here.
All right, there you go. But yeah, yep. I think you hit the nail on the head on this one. Russia has to move out to this hunt right here, and it's going to the game is going to be decided around here. Russia needs these resources, and Aztec needs to deny them from the Russian player. But Aztec is nowhere to be found right now, and Russia's just killing all these bison.
Well, he's just waiting for his Coyote Combat, and there you see Coyote Combat has just come in, and these Coyote runners have a 6.88 speed stat as well. So very speedy units and can just move from one side of the map to the other very, very quickly. Large number of these Coyotes backed up by a few mace. A single Puma Spearman slowing down... Wait, do Puma Spearmen move faster than Mace Sultans? I'd never realised that.
Yeah, they're fairly fast actually. 5 speed on them, and Prince does need a little bit more Puma. I think if you have a cavalry, excuse me, if you have a cavalry unit such as the Coyote, you want to make some anti-cavalry if you're going to fight some Cossacks, which are super efficient. But now these Coyotes are connecting with these villagers. Russia pushing them back.
I think King was hiding his Cossacks there, and Prince engaged into the settlers when he didn't see the Cossack mass, thinking this is great for him, but he underestimated the mass of Cossacks. King of Osmane managed to get out with his 600 coin, 4 Cossack shipments back to back, and has now snared the entire army. The Mace Sultans cannot run away anymore. Coyotes have to stand and turn and fight, and with this a huge amount of musketeers behind this, the Aztec army is caught out of position, and yes, the Russian army just decimates the Aztecs in the open field, and we see King of Osmane taking a second game here, going up to 2-0 in this series.
Yeah, that's really impressive. King of Osmane was not considered, I believe, to be the favorite in this series, but he's now up 2-0, as you pointed out. All those Mace Sultan kind of in that last fight, sort of being some dead weight compared to the Strelets and the Musketeers, because the Mace Sultan were firing at the Cossack, which is not exactly what you want. And the lack of anti-cav from Prince really kind of put the nail in the coffin. What a surprising turn of events.
Yeah, Prince was unable to squeeze in either a 3 warrior priest shipment or a 5 settlers, as well as not having access to a trading post of his own. So sends in shipments of 10 mace, 6 puma, 9 mace, 5 coyotes, and the coyote combat card. He was essentially all in with his containing build, and once the Russian player was able to break out, and with a large mass of Cossacks, which are very effective in terms of cost efficiency and how they trade with other similar units like the Coyotes and Mace, King Osman managed to break out, secure additional resources. You can see all these villagers out on the map now, able to gather from an extra coin mine, and 2 or 3 extra hunts available to him. And yeah, PrinceofKabul have no follow-up behind this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Prince kind of ran out of steam, and then the Russian player was able to secure some resources and just get enough just enough units out to just completely push the Aztec player away. So again, some really solid play from King of Osmane right here. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing.
I actually think the 13 Strelet shipments as shipment number 2 for the King of Osmane was a very, very, very good shipment choice from King. That increased his population from 10 military to 13, and that just gave him enough substance behind his villagers tanking, his Cossacks tanking as well, just to try and keep the Aztec player back. And we can just see as the game went on, the Russian eco started to kind of grow a little bit faster, and the Russian player had slightly more resources towards the end, but was then able to get the Cossacks out that he needed to counter Prince's composition. And Prince took a few trades in the Russian player's base, and there's one particular trade where he went from 34 population down to 15, and the Russian army didn't lose too many units, and that was thanks to settlers tanking, as well as town centre fire, blockhouse fire. And once King of Osmane was given that breathing space, we saw that he made a dart to the left side of the map, get out on the map, get extra hunts under his control, and then from there send the 600 coin, 4 Cossacks to mass, and then that final engagement was a 62 military population versus 40, and yeah, Prince was essentially had lost that game even before the engagement happened.
I could not have summarized that game any better than the way you just did. Completely and entirely, utterly agree.
it's just looking at the graphs, and you look at the graph and go, oh yeah, that explains that, or oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah. I'm not some sort of like mystic or some sort of expert player. I just kind of see what I say, and my rank has now increased to captain level 26. I'm slowly making my way to the top. I'm planning to do a 1,000 episode series of fighting my way to the top of the ladder. I don't think that would ever conclude or ever start.
Oh yeah, good on you for going up to captain. I've been trying to grind myself, but have not been able to. So, yeah.
Well, I'm only on 25.2, and some of those games come from RE. Go back to EP and just get bashed again, and it's like
So the level of players on EP is higher. You'll go out and you'll play better players than yourself, and then you'll be like, hey, you'll do well, but you won't do well enough to cinch a win out of it, and boom.
So KINGofOsmane for game number 3, he's picking Spain, and he's already one of the Ottoman civilizations, so he can't use Ottomans on this game. We may actually see a mirror matchup the reverse matchup of game number 1 with Prince of Kabul picking the Ottomans, but he has chosen to play as the British in this map, and he could have also picked the French as well. Both the British and the French do very well versus the Spanish, so this is going to be a tough game for KINGofOsmane to win, I believe.
Nope, I'm with you on that one. I wouldn't quite call Brits a counterpick to Spain. I don't believe in counterpicks except for like a few matchups maybe that are one-sided, but British are known to do well against what Spain has on the table.
So I wonder how long this game's going to start. Maybe I'll go quickly make a cup of coffee, feed the cats. Should be back beforehand, but gives us time to check at the hunt situation as well, though.
Yep. I see. I see some fairly even hunts.
Yeah,
actually.
really even. 5 relatively nearby hunts of both players, and 2 in the far east and west and mid map. Coin mines. Prince possibly missing a coin mine, but he does have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on his own side, and also King has 5 on his own side. So Prince, if he does scout the map, would want to push to the left-hand side of the map to secure these extra 3 coins in this kind of triangle formation.
Yep, I agree with you. It's 5 coin mines aside. The hunts look pretty even, so I think that's all she wrote for this one. The map spawned pretty well, and now it is a waiting game for the players to load in. Probably see a drop screen here in a few moments, but
isn't it so refreshing that we have this nice long delay due to a player having an older PC, shall I say, but you get to do all the admin stuff at the start of the game before the game actually begins.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. I completely agree with you on that one. It gives you some time to take your time and just look at the map instead of introducing the players right off the bat. So, props to either King or Prince. I'm not sure whose PC is slower.
Well, it's not ours because I'm in the game. Are you in the game at the moment?
I am in the game. Yeah,
we're both in the game. Yeah, so it's one of the two. I think it actually may be Prince, but don't quote me on that one. But we have finally started into game number 3 now in Arizona between KINGofOsmane and Prince of Kabul. KINGofOsmane storming to a 2-0 lead in this best of 7 against Prince, and has now chosen to play as the Spanish on Arizona, a pick which ties in well with the map, considering that the Arizona does spawn with a very long mid-map trading post which goes across the map from the right to the left-hand side. So I'm expecting Prince of Kabul to use some sort of TP control, especially as it was a wood start for both players. Was it wood start? It
was actually no.
It wasn't.
He only had 100 wood, so actually Spain's kind of slightly on the back foot right off the bat because he can't get his TP up immediately. Whereas Brits care about the TP a little bit less than the Spanish player, if not outright. Don't give a fudge. So,
yeah, it looks like it was just a food stock crate as well, because no extra wood, no extra coin, and Prince of Kabul is just going for the single manor house and leaving that as it is. And I think both players can't really do much more than drop their first house down and then advance up to the second age behind this. And an unfortunate backherder there from KINGofOsmane, pushing this bison very far away from his town centre to the coin mine. So single villager will be needed to herd that bison back, and getting the 4 bisons underneath your town centre early on is very important, because these 3 bisons, they do have 1,500 wood but food available, but not quite enough to maintain villager production and gather 800 foods to age up there. So yes, he has sent his first villager up to the top just to herd that one back, and should probably kill it straight away now if it's under the town centre, and save having to walk around after that hunt again. Yes, he just does that.
Yep, so, there you go.
Nice play there
from
King.
Yep, I completely agree with you. I think it was both Mido and Zuda who have explicitly pointed out that getting these hunts as close as possible to the town center and getting them dead, you have to micro these hunts pretty efficiently early on in the game if you want to have a good age up time, and we see that from KINGofOsmane, as you pointed out. What about the treasure situation?
Yeah, I was about to say, if we see anything interesting, we do see Osmane picking up a bit of coin, 80 food as well, and 60 XP. Prince of Kabul has retaliated with 30 coin, 30 food, 70 coin, but treasure contention now over the 60 woods, and who gets that first? I think that was Prince of Kabul. Yes, he's got himself an extra 60 wood now, so his treasure situation is 60 wood, 60 food, 70 coin, as well as the 30 food and coin, so a bit of resources from each resource group as well, so that should help him in transition. And Prince of Kabul is a Spanish player, so that extra would help him get that early trading post, and with coin on the bank as well, he won't have to mine any coin once he gets to the second day. No, hang on. Prince is the British player. Beg your pardon.
Correct.
That coin's useful for the market upgrades of hunting dog steel traps, which the British player would like to do, and the extra wood is very useful for getting that mana production going a little bit early. So plenty of options for Prince of Kabul to how he wants to use those resources, but we do see advanced trading posts coming in behind us for King of Osmane, and he's sending out one villager to the right, one villager herding left, and his explorer is still busy working on a 75 coin.
Yes. So, little move right there from Prince of Kabul. He actually placed down his trade post before the villager could get there. Things are really going in the favor of Prince of Kabul. He clicked up a little bit earlier. He stole that wood treasure, got his mana up earlier, stole this trade post, and Spain is somewhat behind, just a little bit. So I'm liking this game already. Hopefully, Prince of Kabul will be able to translate this early advantage into a win later on in the game. That's what I'm hoping for personally, just so that the series goes on to more than just 3 games. Or is it a best of 7?
Best of 7 is
4 games.
This is the semi-final of the advanced division, so we're at the thick ends of the tournament, and we see a manor house being dropped from Prince of Kabul right on top of one of the trading posts from the Spanish civilization. So behind this, we may get the extra villager. The outpost wagon is making its way also to this trading post, and we may want to see a barracks being dropped behind this from the villagers. Outpost in front of the trading post of the Spanish player, and looks like Prince really wants to focus on this right-hand side of the map, defend his single trading post here, but also try and even out to the trading post control and deny the Spanish player from total supremacy control over the... Oh, wow, the twin towers are going up next to the trading post, but the Spanish player will have to remove his tower because it's currently underneath the foundations of the British player.
Yep, absolutely. Astutely pointed out. This is really aggressive prey from Prince. I really like it. I think we're going to see perhaps some musketeers. He has enough coin stacked up for that. Oh, he just puts his tower right next to it.
I would have actually really liked to see that outpost. I know it was just got a little bit later than the British player's outpost, but if it was right next to the trading post, because the trading post has the attack from the advanced trading post upgrade, it does have 25, but a small range though. So if the outpost was covering the advanced trading post, they kind of cover each other, but if these pikemen start to siege down the Spanish player's outpost, he won't get the defensive fire from his own Spanish advanced trading post. So it looks scary, this position for a British player, but it's just a single outpost with low HP or lower HP, and this advanced trading post from the Spanish player is just kind of sitting there idle, not contributing to this defense, and this tower's going down very quickly, a bit too quick for my liking.
Yeah, I mean, he got a batch of pikemen out, and the Explorer started wailing away at it as it was being built. So the Explorer was doing 18 times 4 siege damage to it. And now all these pikemen and the musketeers coming out to start working on this ATP. I'm pretty sure that Prince is going to attempt to steal this trade post as well. So that if Stagecoach is on the field, he gets 50% of the advantage of it.
Well, I don't think there's any way King of Osmane can realistically go for Stagecoach at the moment, because he has lost control on this right side, especially with this barracks continuously spawning units and outpost support as well, so that King can't come in with his Explorer and War Dogs. Looks like the Spanish War Explorer is being picked off by the British Explorer as well. Can't get away due to being snared, and the Musketeers are just very quick to follow up behind, and looks like he's going to follow up and try and take down the Spanish player's third trading post as well. He does have a lot of pikes on the field still remaining, and 6 pikes on its own may get picked off, so I wouldn't be surprised if he turns around the Musketeers to kind of help and merge his heavy infantry together to take down this extra trading post, but I don't see Stagecoach coming in now for the Spanish player.
Yeah, I think Prince got knocked Spain off the trade route, and he was happy with that. Now he's fielding the Musketeers forward to kind of harass these villagers as they edge. Minutemen being called immediately. Wow. Uh, King is not messing around. He's getting these Musketeers out of the picture as soon as possible, and getting a fair trade out of it. I think 4 Musketeers went down already.
Yeah, I think one got picked off by the town centre, fired, but it's not exactly he's wasted his resources. He may have wanted to save the Minutemen for a later point where he was slightly under more pressure. So we can review that at a later point whether that was a wise decision or not, but it certainly wasn't wasted by any means, and he's forced the Musketeers away and has prevented King of Osmane being idled because he doesn't have any extra military behind this before he's into Age 3.
What do you think of these pikemen sieging the ATP? I guess now that the Musketeers join up, this trade post will go down. But 6 pikemen by themselves, actually, I don't think that they take out a trade post with advanced trade post.
No, so the more units you have sieging a trade post, the more damage you do. But also, you reduce the amount of time that the trade post does damage to your own units, and that was why I was basically questioning PrinceofKabul's early use of Musketeers into the base. He lost 4 to the Minutemen, did force the Minutemen and a bit of idle pop, but has also traded off an extra possibly 2 or 3 pikes as a result from the reduced siege output onto that trading post, and he's still going to the 4th one, and he's just going to lose all his units at this point. Maybe he's just scouting, but I don't know what these 3 units are going to achieve.
Yeah, for sure. I think Prince's goal right now is to kind of chip away at the Spanish army so that Spain doesn't get like a mass of units out. But with these Minutemen and this batch of Musketeers and the 4 Hussar, I don't think Prince is in a position to accomplish that. He kind of gets pushed away out of the base, which gives Spain the breathing room that that he needs to get the Falconet shipments out, to get some skirmishers, Rodoleros, Lancers, actually. Yeah. I think Lancers are probably the best choice in this situation.
Certainly, I mean, at least it's mobile. With mobile units, you can commit or run away. But if you have immobile units like heavy infantry or the Falconets, you're kind of having to essentially commit with that play. But this 5 Lancer shipments that open up with into Fortress Age, he's not committing to anything just yet, and it's actually to give himself extra cover for when he does send Falconets. And I assume the Falconets will be coming as second card here. So far, though, PrinceofKabul, and I think he may have tried to siege those units, or maybe he had the Pikes and Explorer move left and side. He's currently lost 10 pikemen and 8 musketeers, and he has denied the Spanish the ability to go for the stagecoach upgrade, but the Spanish players only lost 1 war dog and a villager, as well as the tower and 2 trading posts. I think King of Osmane wouldn't be the most disappointed player at the moment. It's not gone terribly for him. However, the British eco is better, and so these units like the musketeers and pikemen are easily replaceable.
Yeah, they are. The British at this point have a strong economy, and they're going to get a big mass of units out, and that mass of units is going to have to deal with the smaller but more advanced Spanish army. Falconets on the field right now, but we should see some Hussar, and Falconets can be flanked and outnumbered. They are not kill 50 infantry units for free kind of deal. So I'm going to be interested to see how these 2 armies interact here in a few moments.
Well, the Spanish player has the Spanish gold shipments, as well as both the Lance upgrades. However, has decided not to ship Spanish gold, and I don't think he'd be allowed to ship Spanish gold now that he's already sent 5 Lancers, 2 Falconets. I think he's committed his early XP into these shipments, and with only 1 stagecoach remaining on 1 trading post remaining on the field, I don't think he has the experience enough to spare to get it. But we do see a 320 XP treasure on the right hand side, and it's the Fortress Age now. These units are quite strong, and that'd be a very quick pickup if King of Osmane wanted to spend time to quickly get that treasure down. But it looks like he's starting to push out now with his heavy infantry, Falconets and cavalry mass, and has now getting the veteran musketeers, and quite awkwardly is moving to the right hand side of the map, while the entire British army is on the left hand side going for a flank, and there's quite a few villagers gathering the hunts down to the left and the coin mine, which could be slightly out of position, but looks like Prince has seen where the Spanish army is and wants to move in behind the Spanish army to cut off any reinforcements and commit King of Osmane to having to fight and not retreat.
Yeah, this is a tough nut to crack for the British player. I think he's going for the counterattack, and I appreciate this because the artillery is going to be a lot less mobile than the British army at this point. Look at all these villagers possibly going down.
Got to remember, these musketeers as well do have the musketeer attack upgrade, so slightly weaker than the Spanish ones. But Lancers, it's not an easy prey like Russian musketeers. They do have to kind of, if they are going to commit, they will suffer losses as a result of it. But look, these Spanish musketeers on top of the British mass as well. Falconet's nearby as well, and I feel that the British player is actually kind of trapped here. He can't get away, and with the Falconet still on the field, veteran musketeers of the Spanish still standing, and enough cavalry to snare. The British player is probably going to lose a lot of his units here.
Yeah, I think so as well. The veteran musketeers are going to connect with these musketeers over here. The cavalry is going to snare and prevent these British musketeers from leaving. I think this is a commanding position for King of Osmane at this point. PrinceofKabul just losing too much and for accomplishing very little. A few villagers do go down, but that's not quite enough to put the balance of the game in his favor.
Yeah, I think looking at the units lost will be the biggest show, and PrinceofKabul has lost 46 musketeers, and King of Osmane has lost 10 villagers behind, so while all that was going on, we did see some of the cavalry units of the British player and a few reinforced musketeers move around the map and try and pick off units, and, although lots of musketeers did go down, the Spanish eco was not the greatest to start off with, and now look at the recalculated economic population. It's 24 settlers versus 52, and King of Osmane does not have control of the TP line, so if anything, Prince could actually wanted to get the third TP and go stagecoach because he has the eco to easily reinforce his musketeers, and now look, musketeer attack and HP behind us, same stats as the Spanish musketeers, or just about, slightly underneath it, but with extra cavalry on the field, I think Prince will soon start to have the mobility advantage. But try not to lose those 5 hussars that easily, though. That's a bit of a shame. Cavalry hit points does come in, and I wonder how many hussars we do have in queue to reinforce. And yeah, another 2 hussars being queued, and maybe a batch of hussars just already come out the stable.
Do these falconets get picked off? Oh, the British musketeers are moving forward, and then just slightly move back. Got to be careful there with the falconets. They could, if they're out of position, they're very fragile by themselves. These musketeers moving forward, connecting with the these hussars are coming in. Yeah, I think he's just gonna bum rush it.
Yeah, so it looks like the hussars want to go into the falconets. The musketeers had to take down the hussars and protect the falconets, but it just leaves the musketeers able to damage per second the falconets down. And in this situation, considering the Spanish players lost so many villagers, it is the Spanish players' job to try and push, what military advantage he has, because he can't take this game any longer than it currently is. The longer he leaves it, the more units the British players are going to get out. He's already sent 3 upgrade cards. The longer he leaves this, the worse it's going to get for the Spanish player. So I didn't actually think Prince had to push out then, but he decided to do so, and once those falconets have gone down, I think it's going to be tough for the Spanish player to come back, because these musketeers are essentially even, and a few, unupgraded hussars, a single veteran dragoon, no lancers on the field now, so these musketeers are quite safe.
Yep, absolutely. I completely agree with your assessment. At this point, PrinceofKabul has the economy to trade his units against the Spanish units and come out ahead. He can throw money at the problem, essentially speaking. Some skirmishers are being fielded by the Spanish player, as well as dragoons. So Spain kind of reverting to a more classic, skirm goon sort of composition, but too few in numbers for the time being for that to really matter. I think once Prince, gathers up all these resources on this side of the map and it gets massive units out, he's just going to win the game. Not immediately, but in 5 or so minutes. Good raid coming in here for King of Osmane. Wow.
Yeah, actually, he's somehow managed to miss both the food and the coin miners, and he's undecided. I think he's got this in a control group, and he's actually using the control group and having to manually change it again. But that's given enough time for PrinceofKabul to essentially pull his villagers back before being completely snared out in the open, and might lose a couple, loses none.
Wow.
That house gave the line of sight and gave Prince enough time to reinforce their own hussars, and it's okay, Prince can lose a few settlers at this point. It's not the end of the world for the British player, considering he has a 61-28 economic lead at this advantage, and the Spanish player has seen where the eco is. He's going to move to the left-hand side, and the musketeers are hotly in pursuit of the Spanish army and moving around to cut them off.
Yeah, but gonna get pushed away by these musketeers. There's just so much on the field for British at this point. Some more skirmishers are joining the fray, being trickled into the Spanish army. They can hit and run and kite all these musketeers for a very long time. The Brits need to get a very good engagement. They need to get the snare in. There's not a ton of hussars. 5 more hussars joining as I say that. So he might be able to get a snare on the Spanish army and kind of work his way into a win from there. But it's not quite there yet. King of Osmane is doing a wonderful job just kiting the British army.
Yeah, he's making the most out of a tricky situation, and with these skirmishes dotted in with this veteran musketeer composition, it's quite hard for the musketeers to actually commit onto this army because I don't think they would win that engagement. But also, there's enough anti-cav with the Rodoleros, single dragoon, just to try and dissuade the hussars from crashing into this army of King of Osmane, but also because there's a few musketeers still standing in this skirmisher mass, it's not like the hussars can just jump onto this ranged infantry units easily enough. There's a few musketeers with a hand damage which should take down the musketeers very quickly, and you see a few more musketeers path into the army, and just 2 drop down, 3 drop down very, very quickly. Just all that range fire from the skirmishers and musketeers, and another wave of cavalry coming in and just getting onto the Rodoleros, and more hussars are falling over. These do have the HP upgrade, but certainly losing a lot to this massive units just targeting down the cavalry. And once the cavalry are down, the musketeers, they just can't commit.
No, exactly. Prince is trying to set up this engagement because he knows that in a straight-up fight, he has the more weight in his army to throw around. But King of Osmane very smartly is not allowing that to happen. He's kiting. He's kind of baiting that position. It's a very, very brittle situation for both players. And the King is playing this pretty well. Excellent raid out of PrinceofKabul right here, picking off some more villagers. Putting King of Osmane on an even bigger timer than he already was.
So he's now lost a total of 16 villagers, and conversely, PrinceofKabul, being out on the map, hasn't even lost a single villager yet. I think the first villager it's just gone down now.
Yeah, it does go down.
First villager lost at 19 minutes, and that's just given Prince this huge economic lead, and it's just driving this military production even further, and it's currently now 90 population to 60, and with 3 upgrade cards behind this as well, it's not like these units are vastly inferior to the Spanish army. It's just the only thing that the Spanish players got going for him is the versatility of the skirmishers, veteran musks, dragoons, rodoleros, and possibly lances at some other point.
Yep. No, absolutely. There is something to be said, however, that PrinceofKabul is out of hunts. He has to take this last hunt right here. And I think this is kind of possibly where he's going to win the game. Because Spain wants to contest this hunt, but in a standing straight-up fight, 92 military population against 70 for King of Osmane, I think Prince is going to be happy taking a straight-up fight. So he's going to defend that position. And yeah, maybe upgrade the stagecoach.
Yeah, that'd be useful. Have you seen King's shipments? He went for all the classic H3 shipments, but went 9 Rodoleros, 8 Rodoleros, and then 6 Rodoleros. And he's essentially having to fund his anti-cavalry heavy infantry just by shipping extra Rodoleros, but sending 6 Rodoleros at about 19.5 minutes. It feels really underwhelming, and what else could the Spanish player have done? He could have gone for 1,000 wood, get us maybe second TC, cavalry upgrade, but he has no hand cavalry on the field, so I guess there's nothing really for him left to ship.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And they're not even upgraded to veteran yet, so these Rodoleros are still colonial age. Huss are coming forward, trying to get a connection with the skirmishers. I think they finally will. They will get slightly pushed away by the Rodolero. These musketeers, this is the juggernaut that Spain has to deal with, and I think that this might finally be the final battle. We'll have to see. These musketeers are doing a number on the Rodoleros.
There's only 11 hussars remaining on the field for PrinceofKabul, and I know that all of the hussars are not even in this skirmish as well, so with 10 Rodoleros and 10 musketeers still on the field, these are hussars being picked off, and this dragoon mass is actually starting to increase, and again, once the hussars are gone, it's just King of Osmane has been trading quite well versus the musketeers, but the musketeers at this point, they've so far committed that they have to take this now.
Yep. 5 more Hussar joining the fray, though not quite enough because you need a critical mass of Hussar in order for them to be effective. And 5 at a time, if you just trickle them in, is not going to cut it. These musketeers are just bullying the skirmishers as best they can. The Hussar go and raid these villagers, but at this point, does that even matter? Because the Spanish economy is in shambles anyway. I mean, all these goons. Oh, it's so tight.
I think what we've seen in this end of the advanced division, we've just seen players with fantastic unit control. Imagine, King of Osmane has essentially a smaller mass of infantry, but slightly higher quality due to the veteran musks and the skirmishers, and just managing to continuously kites the British player's army. And it's like it doesn't really matter how many musketeers the British player has; he just can't get engaged. Especially with this growing mass of dragoons trying to fend off the skirmishers. But I think it's getting to the point now that the dragoons are not keeping up with the hussars. And now that the musketeers are in close combat versus the skirmishers, there's only 3 veteran musketeers on the field for the Spanish player, so not enough heavy infantry fire to shoot down these hussars, and it's just allowed the musketeers to get on top of the Spanish army. And King of Osmane has to tap out there, but well played by PrinceofKabul. I also think really well played there from King of Osmane, just to essentially hang on as long as he did, considering he lost many settlers early on in that game.
He really did. King of Osmane was working magic from those out of that skirmisher and dragoon mass. He held on until the very last second, and it took Prince forever to get the engagement he needed to take out the Spanish army. So really, props to King of Osmane, despite taking the loss in this game. This kind of sets the pace for the series, doesn't it? Because PrinceofKabul had to work very hard for his win. And King of Osmane picked up the first 2 wins pretty easily. So I know it's like King kind of still has the momentum in the series despite losing this map.
Yeah, certainly agree. I think the first game it felt near enough to being routine from PrinceofKabul, making a few smart decisions with the frigate and that. The second game, he really had to work to not lose the Aztec early aggressive, but smart use of the TC fire, blockhouse fire, and quite a lot of villagers tanking Aztec coyotes as well gave King of Osmane the time to break out and eventually mass Cossacks. But in this game, he made PrinceofKabul work for it. And if anything, like, it's a best of 7 series, and we don't usually comment on people's endurance, but this was a 22-minute game where in other divisions it could have been a 14 or a 12-minute game. And so if PrinceofKabul was having to have a real high attention span for much longer, he may be a little bit fatigued going into the next games, when King of Osmane, he could have been relaxing because he knew he had that lead into this game. In this match, though, I think it certainly didn't change the outcome, but that positioning of the first outpost from the Spanish player not tucked up nice against this advanced training post when it was the Spanish player's advanced training post, I think that could have saved the outpost stand it a little bit longer. But instead of picking off 8 pike, 8 musketeers by the time Spanish player aged up, may have actually maintained a 3 TP control of the trade route. So a little deviation of where the outpost was placed outside the range attack of the Spanish advanced trading post. And even with the Spanish advanced trading posts on the floor, he was just unable to get any more trading posts on the floor. And these only cost 120 to replace, but Stagecoach was never upgraded by the British player. And maybe actually quite wisely, because that could have enticed King of Osmane to actually try and get back out onto this trading route.
Very fair post-game analysis on that one. This series is just such a treat to cast and watch. Truly. I am enjoying myself right now.
Yeah, the villager graph, though, is not really pretty for Osmane. He lost just about that 13 minutes. He lost many villagers, the 10 villagers we saw, and went from 32 down to 24. He lost 1 in transition and may have lost 1 as well while producing an extra villager. But from that point, you're just trickling a few villagers and having a villager high count of 36 towards the end when PrinceofKabul had stopped making villagers at 63 vil pop. It's just such an economic discrepancy that the all resources gathered, it's just staggering difference. And you've got to remember, though, most of these resources, although outgathered the Spanish player by quite a considerable margin, went into musketeers who eventually fell in combat just due to the real good control of King Osmane's skirmishers, dragoons, a bit of heavy musketeers mixed into the mix as well. So it's not as black and white as it does seem on the graph of all resources. It was a slightly bit closer than that. However, the one advantage PrinceofKabul had was he just had enough resources to continuously remass his Hussars, and it was the Hussar count towards the end which was able to snare and essentially win the match for the British player.
Yep. Looks like both players are ready in the next lobby.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, let's see. I think KINGofOsmane went for Spain, but this is the same matchup as before, so I don't know what they're doing. All right, there we go.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I feel slightly bad because I just saw on the game timer that King's been waiting here for 4 minutes. I'm thinking, my bad.
No, it's fine. They haven't even chosen their civilizations yet.
Okay, I was unready up then. That's the one thing I've always noticed. Like, there's sometimes I'm like, talking in the lobby and that, and breaking down the game, go back into the game lobby, expecting everything to be set up and going, who's picked what civ? Are we ready to go? And then the lobby just lasts for another 10 minutes. Yesterday's series with Stanley Winston, in between, like Dark Sultan and Stanley were taking ages to pick civilizations, and must have been waiting in the lobby for at least 30 minutes, it felt like, towards the end of the best of 5 series.
Yeah, no, it's a balance. It's a balance. Sometimes they do it quick, sometimes quick and to the point, other times not the case. Oh, this is an interesting matchup.
We see another French pick on Florida, and
yep.
we do see that there's plenty of advantages for the French player with the livestock, with the scouts, the trading post line, but the sea is also potential, so other civs like Brit, Port could be played, but KINGofOsmane were playing with Japan, and even this matchup we've seen Kaiser play against multiple times against, I think, KINGofOsmane himself as well.
Yeah. I like the Japanese pick on this map. Japan has access to the sea, so that's that 3 fishing boat shipment that helps out in the earlier game. And then finally, the Seminole settlements will allow Yumis to become absolute monsters. And Yumi are already good units, but throw an upgrade on them, the Seminole one, I kind of have an idea of what KINGofOsmane will do in this series.
Well,
this map.
Last series, when he was playing against Kaiser Klein in a 4-0 defeat to Kaiser, unfortunately lost the game, but he did actually drag it out to like a 30-35 minute game versus Kaiser, so a really good game if any of you guys are interested in watching that one again. Essentially, one thing King has to deal with and makes this pick of Japan on this map slightly awkward is, look at this trading post line. It runs through the entire map, but it runs very close to the town centre of KINGofOsmane, and the one thing that does benefit the French player drastically is that you can't wall across the trading post line. There's not a large, but there's a kind of a radius where you can't build near the trading post line as well. So this could provide an easy access for any early cavalry raiding from the French player, or a crossbow pike opening from the French player into the base of KINGofOsmane. And he can try and build 4 layers of wall, but if you've got a clear pathway into the base, which you can't wall up due to the map, that's been very difficult for King to try and protect his eco.
Yep, nope, I completely agree. The walls are not going to be the staple Japanese feature of this game, just because of that trade route. Looks like we do have a wood start. So I think France is going to throw a TP down pretty quickly. There is a market as well. That is a freebie on this map. Classic drop screen, and then the game starts.
Yeah, so at least we found out it's PrinceofKabul. Well, I mean, it could be KINGofOsmane, but we have finally started onto game number 4 on Florida. We have PrinceofKabul spawning into the bottom left of the map, playing as the French, picking out his first victory of the series on last game on Arizona, when he won as the British civilization against KINGofOsmane's Spanish. KINGofOsmane spawning to the top right, playing as the Japanese in his favourite colour green, and we saw a wood start, so I'm expecting an early trend post down from the French player. Could also squeeze in the market, squeezing the hunting dogs from the market, which spawns on Florida each time, but will be sending villagers onto trees to chop the wood needed for the house early on. KINGofOsmane chopping down the early consulate and chopping a little bit extra wood just to get enough resources available to drop down that early shrine once he's allied with the Portuguese consulate, and has picked up a very early 90 coin from the floor as well. And if he finds another coin treasure, he has the market available to actually buy wood, but I've seen that the coin's already gone down. He's already got himself his tier 1 food upgrade, the Hanami Parties upgrade, which will give him plus 5% on his berry gathering, and looks like he's still got enough wood to drop down his first shrine when he sees a good opportunity to drop it down, and may want to drop it down on this turkey hunt here.
Yeah, that's a pretty good place to put it. Prevents France from gathering from that. Not that that would be the first hunt from the French player. But yeah, I'm guessing we're going to see the Portuguese consulate, maybe some fishing boats here in a few moments. That's in the next stage, actually. My apologies.
Steady on. we're not playing with the handicap plus 100% eco bonus settings.
Yes. So I will save that comment for a little bit later in the game. King of Osmane does start this 100 food treasure. I really like this. It's going to shave 100 food off of his age up time. Prince of Kabul, in the meantime, did pick up 75 wood, kind of for free.
Yeah, that was guided by 2 alligators right in the centre of the map, so he's nearby this treasure, and actually, I haven't seen many divine strikes from the Japanese player, and just because how they're stunned, they're quite far away from the treasure. He does have one Japanese monk near the treasure nearby. Has he got the crack shot going? And looks like Prince has actually gone down first. We have to see this, and yes, Prince of Kabul has stolen 100 foods, and that could be enough for Prince to get the 13 village up. He's currently got 14 Q, but could eat a few sheeps and commit to a 13 village up, but King of Osmane being denied the 100 food there will have a slower age up as a result, and that was a huge 200 food swing early in age 1.
Yes, it absolutely was, and this is going to give Prince of Kabul a lot of momentum going into this game. He's done really well in the treasure department. He has a trade post up. He has hunting dogs already. He's really well set up right now to do whatever it is he wants to do. And France is a very strong contender against the Japanese civilization, so things are looking pretty good for Prince.
Yeah, it looks like he's got the age up in Q. He's had an idleless 14 vil age up and managed to get the resources he needed to get the hunting dogs as well. But he did have that 75 wood treasure and may have got a few coin treasures as well, so possibly not needing to mine any coin. He did have the 20 coin and 40 coin available, so maybe got the hunting dogs off of the treasures, and that's what the benefit of getting treasures in age 1 is. It just allows you to speed up that build that little bit faster, and especially it's going to help him now in transition to age 2.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the interesting things from the French deck that I noticed is that a lot of French players have pioneers in it. 65 HP on the villagers. I guess just so that CDB can tank during fights. If I had to guess. But disregard that, if you will. 2 forward CDBs coming.
Obviously, the Pioneer is more interesting than actually what's happening on the actual game, and I think one of the reasons for that really would be that sometimes, it's not often you get to age 4, and maybe in this matchup, if the French player gets to age 4, the game's gone on for a very, very long time and will be in a good position anyway. We'll still send us 2 factories, but nothing else is overly missing, because the 2 heavy cannons get really picked off very quickly by the flaming arrows. But have you seen this positioning of the Toshogu Shrine from the Japanese player, and how this trade route has essentially crippled his base building ability? And he's got a few forward walls up, but will have to wall from the consulate basically to his own home trading post to 9. He's trying to wall around the trading post, but it's just not going to work. He's creating a bottleneck, but although it's an easy access in, it's also easy access for Prince to retreat if something happens.
Yeah, as you pointed out, like even before the game started, really, this trade route makes the walling situation so awkward. So King of Osmane is going to have to bust out some SimCity skills, really, to make something happen. He has created a nice little choke point. That's going to be difficult for this dual racks to enter. Thrown a free Yumi, and maybe this is not so bad for King of Osmane, but yes, awkward walling for sure.
Yeah, obviously it's hard, to get both cherry orchards placed in a very safe position, but you can see that King's walled to the left-hand side. But essentially, what is the French player going to find when he walks into this open choke point? Oh, one of the cherry orchards right there in front of him, tempting him to keep pushing onward. So that could be a bit of a bait, but also we see that his other cherry orchard was placed down earlier and has only got 4,000 food in it, with this other cherry orchard still having about 4,400. So if this safe cherry orchard gets eaten first, There's going to be a quite exposed food gathering for the Japanese player with an easy access for the French player, and open it with 10 pikes, interestingly enough, as well.
Yeah, and he's going to start wailing away at the consulate. I think he's going to get it down pretty easily. I think sentries at this point, even if they're called, they're a little bit too little too late. So a dual racks out of the French player, and the consulate does to go down. Very interesting. I think at this point, we need to see some Yumi out of KINGofOsmane, but nope. Not quite yet. He is starting to harass this cherry orchard, as you pointed out. Trickling in villagers one at a time.
I thought he was going to lose a villager then, and that would be just such a shame, because he's aware of that cherry orchard exposed, just because how early he brought some of those villagers in. One vill spawning out onto the trees, gets put in straight away, and I think KINGofOsmane may need to actually send Colonial Militia to take off his crossbows and pikemen in one shot, and it's very awkward for a Japanese player to send such a defensive shipment straight away. There we go, Enlist Irregulars has just been sent for KINGofOsmane, and these pikes can go down in one shot. Irregulars been called out as well, so trying to focus down units as he can, and Town Centre is focusing down the pikes because he wants to protect this Tsuga Shrine for as long as possible, because it's just such a benefit for the Japanese player with their eco bonus off the shrine.
No, you're completely correct. Finally, irregulars do come in. There was a lot of idle time for quite some time. There were 18 villagers build up into the town center. Finally, only 10 in that town center, so that's going to be some cost efficiency, at least a better situation for KINGofOsmane for the time being. But this Tsuga Shrine, Prince just keeps rallying units and units and units into this. 3 Hus around the field as well now for PrinceofKabul. So an eventual Yumi switch is going to have to deal with that as well.
Ooh, Prince is losing a lot for this, but now he has started to pick up a few villagers. He's got all of the villagers idle in the town centre, and the barracks has only just come up yet, so King hasn't even trained a single unit yet. He's shipped 5 Yumis as defensive. He does have the extra batch of regulars and sentries now available, because he did send the enlist and regulars, but with no coin miners available, I don't see that extra reinforcement batch of sentries being called anytime soon. Wisely creates a gate in the wall to protect his Yumi archers, because they would have been cleaned up from those 2 Hussars, but now trapped in the open. 1 Hussar going to the south, 2 Hussars still in the base, and yeah, actually, this is giving time for the TC to slowly take down these Hussars and Yumi archers, when the Yumis can return fire onto the pikemen. And this is, again, another really good defense from KINGofOsmane. We do see KINGofOsmane really used to these styles. I'm sure he's played this situation countless times in other games.
Yeah, living up to the clan name, Yumian Walls, really is KINGofOsmane at this point. The barracks does go down, so that's no more reinforcing Yumi for the time being. The Hussar have been cleaned up. And now these 6 Yumi archers are going to start doing a number on the remaining... Oh, I'm sorry. They were actually still here. But the Yumi just pop in through the gate and clean up in the safety of the Japanese base. I think that PrinceofKabul is going to slowly run out of steam, but he did do significant damage.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. Another 5 Yumi being batched, but all the expos are down. It's just pikemans, and the pikemans can't re-engage Yumi archers now. The PrinceofKabul's explorer, with an interesting name, shall we say the least, was trying his best to keep the Yumi archers engaged and allow the pikemans to retreat. Having said all of that, though, looking at the units lost, 28 pikes and 24 crossbows, all that wood went into that shipment straight away. He has managed to continue villager production beforehand, but one thing on the game which KINGofOsmane did so well, I can't remember who his opponent was, but it was on Hudson Bay against a Russian player. He managed to get the shrine population going out on the map while trying to defend at the same time. And as we see, KINGofOsmane is currently at 170 shrine population, managed to squeeze out the 3 fishing boats from the port consulate before it went down, and didn't rely on the 8 bestiaros. And so, although it looked a bit touchy from KINGofOsmane early on, he's set himself a solid foundation to spring off this, and at this point, considering how well KINGofOsmane defended, and basically how all those Yumi archers are still on the field and did wonders for his defense, I actually want to give the advantage to KINGofOsmane. And it may sound weird, but we're thinking having how Prince has forced King to go in less than regulars and send 2 Yumi archers, but Prince has spent most of that wood on the units, sent 8 expos, sent 3 CDBs, and only sent 3 Hussars, only sent 4 CDBs at about 9 minutes.
Yes, I would agree with you until I saw those 5 Hussar pop out, and now for some reason King of Osman is pushing out. So he can get trapped by these Hussar if he's not careful. Kind
Ooh.
of hesitating, but I do agree with your assessment that King is in a pretty solid position. But these Hussar are gonna get the Yumi, gonna get the snare on it. Only 5 Ashy. I guess they kind of push it away because the crossbowmen are not quite there to support the Hussar. And then King of Osman just retreats back into his base. So at this point, yeah, you're right. The dust has settled, and the situation is pretty even, if not favored for King of Osmane. I don't know. At the same time, France is not hurting either. Prince still has some options in front of him, so I'm not too sure with the way the game is going to go. There's so many shrines.
These CDBs though do have steel traps and place mines, so they, even though Prince went really aggressive early on, he has not neglected his market techs and now pushing in with crossbowmen and hussars. This is actually a real strong push from Prince of Kabul. I think King will need to call some sort of colonial militia, and he's actually deleted the wall as well to maybe aid mobility for the Naginatas. And with the Nagis snaring and the infantry coming in, this would be a great time to gather up some of that coin and call another batch of sentries or irregulars, but decided not needing it so far. And Prince of Kabul has hightailed it out of there before he was trapped by extra units popping.
Yep, he did pick off a few villagers, so that's a pretty good pickup, I think, for Prince. Just trading some crossbowmen for villagers. But King of Osman is in a very stable position at this point. He's really entrenched in his base, and I don't think that Prince really has the tools, the means necessary to contest this army. I wonder if his best move... Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Prince is waiting for the Cav HP before coming back in there. Last shipment came in at 1030, he's backed off it, but he does have 12 hussars in the field. He's gone for 600 coin instead though, and with 30 villagers gathering food, he's actually decided to not commit any further into the Japanese player's base, and I think he's actually looking to get the Fortress Age being queued up behind this.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the best possible move for Prince of Kabul at this point. Get up to the Fortress Age, get falconets, get upgraded units.
Scrap that, he's just trained 10 musketeers.
Yeah. Well, Japan is pushing out at this point, so I think he kind of has to. He has to make sure that he doesn't get caught out of position for the Naginata. So kind of that's a lot of cavalry from the Japanese player. Prince of Kabul absolutely needs some anti-cav mixed in. What an interesting game. Seriously.
Yeah, we see King of Osmane throwing up his consulate again. I assume it would ally with the Japanese consulate soon to get the range attack bonus for his infantry, as well as getting access to the Konshag Yamabushis to help deal down with these Hussar mass. But I think with stronger infantry and cavalry from the Japanese player, it's just going to snare the infantry of the crossbows, and these musketeers are just going to move on to this unit. And 5 reinforcing hussars, but slightly late. All the other hussars are going down. Daimyo is still on the field. Getting's zoned off by the hussars, but although it does go down, it's buying the rest of the time of the Ashies to do all the damage it needs to do onto the musketeers and hussars.
Yeah, the Japanese army is doing super well here. The Naginata, very tanky, and then the leftover infantry from the Japanese army is wailing away at the remainder of the French forces. Really, at this point, King of Osmane should be really happy. The massive Ashigaru is completely uncontested at this point. France has no answer to it whatsoever, and there's still some reinforcing Naginata coming in. A batch of Hussar do come out, but what are they going to accomplish in this situation?
Yeah, against a pure mass of Ashigarus, not a lot by the sounds of it. And he's trained more hussars into this musketeers into this army, so I think it's going to be a last stand because he just can't train 10 musketeers and throw them away within a couple of seconds. So I'm not too sure how Prince of Kabul can move on from this point, especially this army now on top of all of the military productions from the French player, and the French player's army just getting decimated as soon as it enters the field of battle.
It looks like you called it pretty well there. The Japanese player was in a position of dominance after that H2, dust sort of settled. At this point, King of Osmane is in the driver's seat. The economy of King of Osmane is doing very well. He has massive military units out, and there's just no way for Prince of Kabul to come back from this. Maybe sneak in an age up, but he doesn't have the resources to do that either.
He's got 2 musketeers in queue. He did train a batch of 10, but that's going to get picked off. And yeah, once his barracks goes down, there's no way for him to really age up behind it or get enough military to defend himself during that age up. So yeah, I think Prince of Kabul has realised that once he lost that engagement near his buildings, the writing was on the wall for him, and it was only a matter of time before he actually officially realised that he just couldn't carry it any longer.
Can we just talk about how well KINGofOsmane played that? Like, it was immaculate. Like, the defense was just the right amount of units, making just the right sacrifices in terms of sacking buildings and whatever. Just the right gate to throw 5 Yumi in and out of each side of the wall so that the Huster can connect. He played this so well, really.
And do you know why I think he was so well prepared for this? Was early on in Age 1, I can't remember what time, but I do believe it was way before, it was before Prince of Kabul aged up to the colonial age and before KINGofOsmane. KINGofOsmane had rescued a trapped native scout, and the native scout scouted the 2 barracks of the French player, and for the rest of the game, basically stood on top of the 2 barracks and the stable nearby. So Prince of Kabul dropping a stable on top of the 2 barracks, the stable was scouted, and so KINGofOsmane essentially had a line of sight of what units was popping, when they were popping, how many, and how long will it be until they're on top of the unit. So KINGofOsmane, he saw the 2 racks, he saw if it's going to be bow pike, well, he saw it would be bow pike after the 10 pikes were shipped, knew he had enough time to get the 600 wood down. That helped his shrine population, but didn't hesitate and went straight for enlist in regulars as card number 2. Tried his best to wall out given this trading post line, and he did lose his Sugar Shrine, but when you got so many other shrines behind it, its impact is a lot, but he had enough eco behind it to try and carry on, sending 5 Yumi, pathing in between the gates for the rest of the game, and those Hussars had to run around. 2 ran around the Seminole to the top. I think 2 ran around the gates to the south as well to try and actually melee these Yumis, but they just couldn't get onto it. And once all the crossbows were picked off from the town centre, the Yumis came back into the base of his own base and just picked off the pikemen as if they were nothing. And once the Japanese player stabilised at that point, he had the decent eco. It was, he could play the game however he wanted to do it afterwards. But transitioning from Yumis into Nagi Ashi, the Naginatas were enough to snare the French army. Musketeers to do damage. Ships the daimyo and 2 chariot archers behind this. Was starting to run low of the chariots, but did have 3,000 food remaining and could have snuck in a Ashigaru attack card. And if the KINGofOsmane got a few extra unit upgrades into the second age, I think he would have been in a more safe position. But that native scout scouted everything from these 2 barracks and stables from start to finish of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I'm currently in the next lobby right now. Both players are kind of thinking about what they're going to pick on Arkansas. But yeah, that native scout, as you pointed out, I think it accomplished quite a bit for KINGofOsmane. That was something that I missed during the game and noticed at the very last minute. So it's good that you circled back around to point that one out.
Yeah, native scouts OP confirmed. Please increase treasure to 5 grizzly bears. But also, once the Japan player pushed out with 50 population, French player also about 55 pop, but the French army just really kind of fell over, and there was lots of reinforcements to KINGofOsmane, and any reinforcements from Prince of Kabul was already just being popped onto the Naginatas and the Ashis and just fell apart very, very quickly there. So really, really well played from KINGofOsmane. Really impressed by his Japan play so far this tournament.
Yep, absolutely. He's just playing this series like really, really well. The only win that Prince of Kabul managed to take off of KINGofOsmane at this point was like difficult for him to earn. So I'm impressed.
Cool. Let's take a quick comfort break, and we'll be back in for, is it game number 5?
I believe so. Yeah, he's up 3-1, so this is game number 5.
Match point for KINGofOsmane, but he has no longer access to his favourite civilization of Japan.
So I don't know if I'm still live or not. Harrison's ping is now red/yellow. Oh, are you here?
I'm here. For some reason, it's once you go into the lobby, it just really doesn't like it. I know it seems to be a recurring issue, but once you're in the game, it's absolutely fine. But in the lobby, it just spirals, and I have no idea what causes it, and it just goes up and down continuously.
Yeah, no worries on that one. I did notice that I heard you break up on my end, so I was kind of curious about that. But so far, none of the players have complained about lag, so no worries.
Yeah,
It looks like KINGofOsmane did block in the Brits.
Yeah, once we're in the game, it's all fine. I'm just going to leave the lobby time being, but I will be taking a quick break. We'll be back in a minute, so Cammy to carry on the interlude before we get into Game 5.
Absolutely. So it looks like KINGofOsmane did lock in the Brits, and PrinceofKabul, even though none of you can see it, has picked the Russian civilization. I'm not sure if he's going to go with that, but I think that's a really PrinceofKabul said brain dead locked. Unsure if he's referring to himself or KINGofOsmane, but a little bit of banter between both players as of right now. So yeah, it looks like we will be seeing British against the Russian civilization on Arkansas. Another classic matchup, another interesting matchup. Both civilizations really reliant on food, and Russia has their KINGofOsmane with a be right back bath. Wink, wink on that one. But yeah, Russia has that contained play that has been very popular recently, and it's going to work especially well against a food-reliant civilization such as the British. So I'm interested to see how this game pans out. KINGofOsmane is playing very, very well. He is up 3-1 in this series against PrinceofKabul. KINGofOsmane has been considered somewhat of the underdog in going into this, but proving everyone wrong by showing some really, really good play. And whether Prince is just on somewhat of an off day, or maybe King is just that good right now, we do have a match point situation right now where KINGofOsmane needs only to win one other game to take the series, whereas PrinceofKabul needs to grind out another 3 wins in a row. So things are not looking good for the Kabuli.
Right, I am back. I'm just going to quickly restart my game, unless if it's some sort of game issue. I can see that when I came back, it was still kind of spiking up and down. But as soon as I left the game, I'm not dropping any frames now. So, for some reason, if any tech gurus out there knows why the lobby seems to spike bit rates and internet bandwidth up and down, please let me know, because it's very disconcerting when you're about to hop into a tournament game and you're unsure if your internet is fine or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Still, I think the conditions of the series are good. Besides the load times, but who cares about that? As long as the game itself is, played in good conditions, which looks like they were.
Yeah, I think that's just mechanical conditions of one of the players. It's just basically it's loading up the game, loading up the map, loading up the files. But once once these files are loaded up, the game is ready to go at that point.
Yep.
So here we go, jumping into game number 5. I always forget it has that super long pause as well. So enough time to look at the hunts, and looks like KINGofOsmane may have a starting hunt plus 2 nearby or 1 nearby with the berries. I want to say it's even. It's looking a bit touch and go for the time being. What's your thought on this one?
I think it's mostly even, with KINGofOsmane's hunt being slightly farther away, but it still looks pretty good. The mines
yeah,
look
it's fine.
pretty even.
Yeah, so
I would play this one pretty comfortably, yes.
Right, the score is 3-1 to PrinceofKabul. Let's reset that one again and move this to the top left. Don't worry, the game hasn't started just yet.
And since it hasn't started, I guess we can point out a coin start for both players before we introduce them, so just bear that in the back of your mind.
You're cutting out there a little bit, but I'm not dropping any more frames, so we should be in a good position to start this game number 5 between KINGofOsmane and PrinceofKabul. KINGofOsmane playing as the British, spawning in the left-hand side of the map in his favourite colour, green. It was a coin start for both players, with PrinceofKabul about to spawn in and start his game on the right-hand side. and he had picked the Russian Civ to counter-pick King of Osmane's Brit pick. Cammy, what do you think of this matchup, and are we likely to see some sort of forward blockhouse on the Russian player and put some pressure onto King?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think that's going to happen. The British player is going to have to herd all of his... an actual drop screen this time. Interesting. And the game has started. So yeah, as I was saying, I think that what we're going to see is the Russian player go for a contain situation, and the British player is going to have to make sure that they acquire enough resources, herd them well, get enough massive units out to break that contain. And they have to do it before Boyars comes into play, or at least they need the tools necessary to deal with Boyars, because Strelets just become so cost efficient once that shipment does come in. So that's my take on the game. We'll see what the players actually do.
Yeah, certainly. And look at this, King Osmane being very lucky with his explorer movements and has come across a 95 wood treasure in the middle of the map. PrinceofKabul is still in nearby his base, picking up a 40 coin treasure, but will have absolutely no use of that for the time being because PrinceofKabul cannot really afford to drop a market as the Russian player in early game. Has come across 90 food of his own, and so will be picking up himself, but 95 wood is certainly going to be very nice for the British player. And be much happier with that pickup than 90 food.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot more value out of the wood treasure. But there is a tempo advantage to be said about the 90 food treasure being picked up pretty quickly by PrinceofKabul as well. Especially without the market start and just slapping down a house and then forgetting about anything else. Russia should be up pretty quickly here. But King of Osmane does find 70 food, so he's going to offset that advantage just a little bit. So I'm liking things for King of Osmane right now.
Yeah, 70 foot as well, just guided by 2 balls. Very easy to pick. Hopefully, oh my god, he's just stalked his treasure guiding so well that it's actually ran out the circle in the opposite direction than you'd expect it. But luckily had the crack shot available because the Russian player was advancing down onto the British Explorer very, very quickly and could have gone for the steal. And if Russia picked up a 70 foot as well, it'd be very useful for PrinceofKabul to ensure a definite idleless age up with 14 villas. But King of Osmane retreating back to his town centre. He has lots of settlers nearby to get some damage onto the Russian Explorer, but it looks like the Russian Explorer is going to back off at this point and carry on with his treasure gathering this early stage in the game.
Yeah, I like that move out of PrinceofKabul. He notices that the other Explorer has low HP, and what does he do? He bullies him back to his base, prevents him from looking for other treasures, wastes his time, and then the HP of an Explorer in H1 is kind of like a resource. You use that resource, you trade HP against treasures. So some solid play out of PrinceofKabul right there, just showing how high level this game is really.
That's an interesting comment how you talk about extra other resources in the game. I remember one caster a couple years back described another potential resource of pressure. So whoever has the more pressure has the more kind of ability to be more free of what they do. Just imagine if King of Osmane only had 50 HP on his Explorer and was let's say a German player wanted to drop down a training post. He would be feeling very scared to be pushing out with his Explorer both sides. And yes, the map was fair for both players, and it was this. There's 2 hunts nearby. That hunt's kind of walked to the north of his town. So yeah, slightly awkward from both players, specifically this hunt, but it was fine to start off with. A bit unfortunate how it's drifted away from his town centre to start off with, but PrinceofKabul pushing 3 settlers forward as well, so he's going for a blockhouse mid-map with 3 settlers, and does PrinceofKabul, PrinceofKabul is aging up, but does have resources available for Minutemen, and we could see a bit of a cheese actually if this is scouted by the British player.
Sorry, I kind of tuned out when I was looking at the hunt.
Saying that in this matchup, Prince would be expecting a mid-map blockhouse, but look at his resources. He has enough resources to call Minutemen, or he had enough resources to call Minutemen at an earlier point, and with the Russian Explorer so far away, this could have been a really early GG for King of Osmane by just calling Minutemen on top of this blockhouse.
He does have that possibility, but I don't think... Does he even have the blockhouse scouted yet? I don't know.
No, he doesn't. But in this matchup, it's one of those things I think you should be looking for or could be looking for. And I think King Osmane will know that it's around, but he's just focusing on his own build. And this tower, once it goes up, will provide him the line of sight to know where that blockhouse is. And he's got the forward rally points to this hunt. He knows where these extra 2 villagers are. 5 Cossacks should be out in the field very nearby. And you see both these settlers are retreating back to the town fairly quickly. He knows what's coming in, and he is doing his best to herd in this extra hunt. Really nice defensive barracks in between the town centre, market, and outpost. Outpost is forward, slightly, possibly a bit too far away from the town centre for my liking, and any units sieging the outpost may be outside of town centre fire, but we do open up with musketeers from King of Osmane and 5 Cossacks, 5 musketeers from the Russian player.
Yeah, good unit choice by King of Osmane. These 5 musketeers are going to do pretty well against both the Cossacks and the Russian musketeers. King of Osmane does have this hunt that is in base. He's managed to herd the second hunt in as well, so he should be all right for the time being. But Russia is not looking to enter the British town. I think Russia is more looking to make sure that to retain that map control and kind of retain that pressure, kind of like what you were mentioning earlier. Notice that PrinceofKabul did pick up the medicine man and is healing up his explorer. Cute move. It's for free. Why not? I think it's a great thing to do.
Yeah, especially as this treasure is only guarded by 2 Cougars now. It's really easy for any civ to pick it up, and I think with a healing rate of 10 HP per second, it provides so much value, even if it's just healing up the Explorer or 1 unit. I think it's something which is currently undervalued by most players, and maybe not given the associated time. But these 5 Cossacks out in the field have just seen British players' Explorer and picked it off, and what's really nice about that pickup is PrinceofKabul was nearby the trading route, but King of Osmane was unsure and still does not have the knowledge, really, whether PrinceofKabul is going for any trading post control or not. So the British player King is unsure if Prince is going for a more economic build behind this, or is actually massing up units by his blockhouse and going for a timing push.
Yep. These 5 Cossack finally find some blood. This villager down pretty quickly. The musketeers will push it away, but no Cossacks are lost. Perhaps a cute move down the line in about 30 seconds to a minute is getting that Cossack healed up by the medicine man, but we'll have to see whether or not that happens. A stable does go down for King of Osmane, so we're looking at some Musk Hussar against the Russian kind of contain build. Second blockhouse on the field as well. Classic Russian play of putting 2 blockhouses about 5 feet apart, just so that they can cover each other.
He didn't have any nearby villagers, though. He sent the villagers back after the first blockhouse, so has had to march 2 settlers across the map to try and get this extra production building built. And we just see Prince just kind of essentially going for massed up his units. He did send 700 wood, and I don't believe he has a stable down as well. He's gone for 2 blockhouses, but has also not gone for the TP control. So 700 wood has quickly been here and gone, already been spent. And I would have liked to have seen actually a stable at some point. Maybe buy 100 wood, but use a bit of that wood to get the stable down and send 700 coin afterwards to start Cossack production.
Yep. It looks like King of Osmane is starting to work on his 3rd hunt now, has fielded the musketeers to protect this area of the map. Men are going down as well for some line of sight, a little bit of map control. But now Russia, now the thing is, like, the British player is out in the open with his musketeer mass, and Russia has Strelets on the field. Strelets being some of the most expendable units in the game, and they trade cost effectively. So this is a potentially a dicey situation for for King of Osmane, but military unit population is even.
I think, yeah, PrinceofKabul has just seen as well that Hussar mass of the British player growing a little bit, so he can't just really press in too far with his military units. He's only got a handful of musketeers, 20 on the field, or 25 now, with another batch being produced from the blockhouses, but with 30 British musketeers and 7 Hussars, the musketeers will do well versus the infantry mass of the Russian player before more threats come in. But this 7 Hussar mass is actually, it feels like it's relatively unchallenged, with Minutemen being called as well, and the rest of the British musketeers moving in. I think King of Osmane is actually wanting to push out earlier than he would have hoped for. Maybe because he's unsure where his next safe hunt is.
Yeah, he has to take this fight. He has to push out for the map control a little bit earlier than normal games. But the Russian infantry is doing pretty well against all these musketeers from the British player. The Hussar are all down. And, KingofOsmane is kind of on the ropes, looking for hunts to gather. He has started gathering both here and here, so he will be able to, get some food. But the situation is just a little bit dicey for the British player just because his hunts are so exposed compared to a normal situation.
Good news for King, he does have 4 more Hussars in queue, so he will have some cavalry presence, but kind of needs to wait until an extra batch of Hussars is being produced. 4 Hussars on their own are not exactly the most overwhelming unit, so he did get a full batch of 5 actually, so doesn't want to lose that too early, but Prince knows where some of the villagers are. He's pushing out with Strelets first, which is quite smart. They do have extra range, and they move faster as well, the same speed as Explorer. So gets an advance party just to get that bit of scouting information and trying to push back KingofOsmane's eco. But KingofOsmane is also hunting to the top where there's his 3rd hunt, as well as the topside hunt near the berries and the mine available at a later point in the game.
Yeah. So at this point, the British player is kind of on a timer, I feel. It needs to break out on the map and break the Russian. Even though the Russians not really building his buildings on top of a hunt per se, but the resources is going to be the name of the game on this one.
We see a 4 Cossack raid coming to the top, trying to come around and pinch these villagers on this hunt. There are Hussars nearby, but they're going back to their town centre, and I think KingofOsmane thinking that Prince is going to be putting pressure on the southern hunt, but actually once these Cossacks come in, Prince will be making a beeline to the top side. He will know where they are, and yes, the Hussars have just come in to reinforce and scared away these Cossacks. Both players are unaware that this extra hunt to the top left by the berry bushes exists, and I think if King knew that existed, he'll feel a little bit more comfortable at a later point. He does have the extra 5, deers to safely gather from before he pushes out even further from his base. But it'd be nice for King just to know that later on the game, extra resources are available for him.
Yeah, I can't count the amount of times I've played a game and then had, these just hunts just hiding in this little fog of war areas in the map. So definitely something that is to consider. You always want to kind of really get the edges of the map because so much can be hidden in that.
But it's also something. It's something that say 1 HP Minutemen can do. You can just deselect it from your group and just send it on the outskirts of the map, and that Minutemen would actually come around and see this operation of the Russian player Blockhouse guarding this top hunt, although not necessarily impactful, will kind of show that to KingofOsmane, the eco is starting to move to the north side instead of staying at the south. And again, looking at the south, Prince has seen all the hunts to the south available, so he's not missing any hunts down there in terms of visibility. But look how far KingofOsmane is trying to get this extra hunt, and I'm not too sure King's able to push out that far. And the fact that I think King really thinks he's only got 2 hunts available and will have to go into the berry bushes soon, which is kind of unfortunate. But King starting to turn around. He's got a large mass of Hussars with another 4 in queue, total Hussar mass of 13 with the cavalry HP upgrade. These are the upgraded units that the British player wants to put into the Russian player's face, and with these musketeers with the extra damage upgrade as well, these are real strong units for the British player and relatively equal military unit populations. A few villagers nearby tanking. Unfortunately, quite a few of the Hussars are on top of the musketeers, but so far it's hard to call which way this fight's going. I think it's going in the way of the British player.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. Some of the Strelets did escape the Hussar and are in the back, firing away at the British Musketeers. But again, these British Musketeers are just so much better than the Russian counterparts that I think that KingofOsmane is actually just going to push. Oh, Boyers comes in, but too little, too late. There's not enough Strelets on the field for that shipment to be of a huge effect. Some more Cossacks joining the fight. But realistically, at this point, I think KingofOsmane has done quite the number. Actually, with the... Oh, this is so close. But I think King of Osmane.
Yeah, reinforcement batch of 10 musketeers. Cossacks do engage, but these infantry are double carded, upgraded. Hussars have got the HP upgrade as well. These are very strong units, and Russian players, the unit population is much lower than the British player, which is certainly worrying times if you're down in military population, considering you have so many of these low resource count, but still one population strelets, and sends in 6 musks as a reinforcing card as well to the forward outpost. Good play from Osmane, really quick reinforcements there, and also is snaring from the other side as well. So Prince of Kabul is kind of trapped at this point. He needs to stay near his outpost to provide extra fire, but these extra hussars to the top are doing really well on the top of the strelets, and so many musketeers still on the field for King of Osmane. I think King of Osmane is certainly in the commanding position now at this stage of the game, but is soon to be low on hunts and has to try his best to take down this forward blockhouse position of the Russian player.
Yeah, that's for sure. But no, not only did King of Osmane manage to break out of the contain, and now he's gathering these resources. I think he's finally going to be able to scout this hunt right up here. But King of Osmane also reset the military unit population for the Russian player. And at this point, Russia is on the back foot. It's going to be difficult for Prince of Kabul to get a massive units together. I don't think the King of Osmane is going to allow him to do that.
He's only got one blockhouse currently up on the field, one being thrown down in the base. The one blockhouse he tried to erect got taken down. He's got 700 food on the floor, but he's got so much food in his bank already that he desperately needs wood and coin to try and help as well. Calls Minutemen, and that's really emergency batch of Minutemen there, because he just thought that the Hussars were going to catch his remaining 4 musketeers, and gone for a really early batch there. 10 Sherlets returning to the safety of the top blockhouse, and that's the only blockhouse currently up. The blockhouse in the base has finally gone up, but it's okay. King of Osmane can just take down the blockhouse and stay in mid-map.
Yeah. Good raid coming in out of Prince of Kabul. If he's going to come back into this, these little raids are definitely necessary, so a good pickup right there. I think his goal right now is to get a mass of Strelets and Musketeers out to kind of deal with the British army. But it's just going to be a little bit difficult to do.
I think Prince of Kabul's only way back is, yes, to send a 600 coin and to mass off the coin with Musketeers, Cossacks, and maybe have one batch of Strelets in there as well. He does have a lot of military. He does have a lot of population room to spare Strelet production as well as Musketeers and Cossack spam. So I think Prince is going to have one last option and one last chance to mass an army and catch the British player's army out of position. He's starting to move really forward, and once these blockhouses go up, the British player will be in between 2 blockhouses, infantry to the south to kind of snare this, and there's potential for actually the British army to be trapped here, but he's decided to back away a little bit, and all these hussars onto them, Strelets, low HP Minutemen, and a few Musketeers. These infantry units have been cleaned up very quickly for King of Osmane, and that's not what Prince had in mind. I think Prince is hoping for the British players to really try push the eco and move in between these 3 blockhouses, and even more reinforcements being picked off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a war of attrition at this point, but British still have just such a military unit population compared to the Russian player. All these blockhouses do come up, which is a boon for Prince of Kabul, but it's not going to be enough. There's just no realistic way to deal with all of these musketeers. And some more reinforcements, 4 Hussar, 4 more Hussar, a total of 8 Hussar just joining the fray, and at this point, it's going to be dicey. King of Osmane is on top of the gathering hunts of Prince of Kabul, and I think that he's going to kill him now. It's a stake through the heart. All these villagers are going to go down. Ouch.
Yeah, absolutely, totally there. It's because these musketeers are so strong as well, and the fact that the settlers, they do have great coats. It feels like they don't have great coats, but it's just how strong these musketeers are and how many of them are around. It just shows how quickly those villagers went down, and now again Prince of Kabul's eco is below the British player's eco, and with this military advantage for the British player, it's going to be a struggle for Prince of Kabul to remass him, but he's fighting to the end. This is the end of Prince of Kabul's tournament life, and he's going to give it his absolute all, but has realised that he's lost his entire military mass twice, and has finally tapped out, and that's going to be a 4-1 victory for King of Osmane in the semi-finals of the Advanced Division.
Yeah, and King of Osmane with a very convincing win. A very, very solid play out of him. Congratulations to him. And Prince of Kabul is out of the tournament. But I think that was a really well-deserved win from King of Osmane. He played excellently.
Yeah, I think he was online before the series started, had a few warm-up games. I think Prince of Gold just basically turned up online for the start of the series, but I was particularly impressed with how King of Osmane, although he lost the game, managed to hold out the Spain versus Brit on Arizona for as long as he did. And then once the Brit pick was out of the way, I think he was fine taking the Japan into the French pick on Florida, knowing that the British were no longer available for Prince of Kabul. And that defense of the Japanese on Florida was also top tier gameplay. And even again, this game, he had a little tough situation with Hunt. The map was fair for both players, but had to push out a little further than he would have liked for the Hunt. But good military control from both players, with King Osmane managed to get a large enough mass of Hussars, really, with the Hussar HP card onto the cavalry as well. These 368 HP units were able to snare the Russian military mass, and when you have Hussars on top of your units, you can either try to take down the Hussars or refocus your units onto the Musketeers, but the other vice versa. Essentially, it's the Hussars engaged in the infantry, and then the Musketeers also engaged with the Russian infantry, and that was just so much damage from the British player there, or so much damage output from the Musketeers and the Hussars, that the Russian player just couldn't hold on and just lost a few military fights. And if we look into this military population, you'll probably see these two fights clearly in the graph, and yeah, the first fight was near enough equal military population, which in itself is a bit of a problem for Prince of Kabul, because having equal military populations is not what you really want, because these units for Russia are so much weaker than the British counterparts, and that was a really large victory for King of Osmane in the middle, and that's earned him the right to push out his base even further, gather even more hunts, and then that second fight, the British player nearly double military population, 64 to 43, but then the game was pretty much over at that point. He caught Prince of Kabul's infantry away from the blockhouses. They fell over really quickly without too many losses from the British players' side, and at that point there was very, very little chance of Prince of Kabul making a return, and so decided to call GG at that point, and the series ended there 4-1 for King of